Manx Radio Podcasts, powered by Shaw.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Countryside with Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. And a good variety on this week's programme and a good variety of Bonnags you've seen on Friday night.
There certainly was. It was all shapes and sizes, all different colours, and the uses of fruit and some without. And I think Tony Quirk had quite a tough job that night trying to find his champion, but he went with the traditional one, a sour tasting type. Yeah,
but it's amazing, isn't it? The amount of interest that's shown in that. It was a night of entertainment as well as, you know, the Bonnags on display. Was everyone allowed to try them?
No, not everybody, but they did get the opportunity to purchase one and take it home. And Jeff Corkish did a brilliant job of selling it, with all the funds going back into the church restoration and 2 charities as well.
Any brought in with you today?
No, sorry.
Oh, Manx butter on stow as well, was it, to put on them?
No, it was lots of Manx flour to take home, though, for everyone in attendance.
Fair enough, then. Well, I went along with Louise Sampson, who is the warden for the Ayres Nature Reserve up the north of the Isle of Man, and she was showing me about a new innovation that they've got up there. They've been doing some work on parts of that area, and I followed her around there, and she explained to me what it was, so you can hear that on this week's programme. And also Ray Kelly, you remember, who launched the illustrated book Manx Tholtans Volume 1, which was illustrated book about many of the old ruins they are now. They were all Manx farmhouses and little Tholtans and buildings that were just out in the middle of nowhere. And he's been that successful that he's launched volume 2 of it now. So I went up Little London. We looked at some of them up there. Had a lovely chat and brought back a lot of memories looking at these old Tholtans that are still there, in part.
But it's hard to believe that each one of those little Tholtans had a farming or a croft, and people lived there. Now you hardly see a farm for miles, really, do you? It's so different.
No, it is. But there we go. All that in full here on this week's Countryside.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Kiri, a place I don't suppose you'll have been too often to, the Ayres Nature Reserve.
No, I haven't, but I believe it's very beautiful there.
It is beautiful, and even at this time of year there's things to find out about it, and one such thing is a new innovation that DEFA have got involved with. I went along to get the information about it first hand from the warden for DEFA, Louise Sampson, and we found ourselves in a bit of a remote area.
There's a lovely archway of sallows, isn't there, that you can walk through to get here. We've come to this area here.
Well, this bit looks as though a farmer's been here with a rotavator. What's going on?
Yeah, over the winter, the DEFA tractor's been out here with the mulcher, and it's created these bare sand areas, and these have been specially created for the rare invertebrates that we have here on the National Nature Reserve. And it's something that we don't usually think about very often, the invertebrates that we have here. And by invertebrates, I mean insects. It's all a species without a backbone, so insects, snails, slugs, spiders, all of that kind of thing. On the National Nature Reserve, we have over 30 species that have been listed by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, who compile red lists of species that are rare. And we have 30 of those species residing here on the National Nature Reserve, and quite a few of them require this bare open sand habitat in these sheltered little spots because they have their own really unique microclimate. The sands warm up really, really quickly, and so they create the perfect habitat for these little invertebrates to reside. So one of the ones that we have here in this area is the small velvet ant. And I have brought a little photograph of it here to show you. As you can see, it's covered in little hairs, which gives it the velvety appearance. And again, this is a nationally scarce creature or insect that occurs in very, very few places. But it does occur here on the Ayres National Nature Reserve.
And you think of this area, primarily I do, as an area for birds or rabbits and things. But this opens it up to what it's really all about, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. This is one of the reasons why this site is designated. In the past, there have been 3 surveys done for invertebrates. They are really, really difficult to identify. It's usually a specialist area. We have over 40,000 species of invertebrates in the whole of the British Isles. So as you can imagine, trying to identify these, it usually involves a microscope and really specialist skills. So we've had 3 surveys in the past that have identified the majority of these nationally scarce invertebrates. We do have specialists on the island as well. We are very fortunate that we've got Steve Crellin, who's a Diptera specialist, and he identifies many of the Diptera on the Isle of Man. And he's identified the Ayres as a stronghold for the Manx robber fly. So that's another scarce species that, it doesn't occur in many other places. It's very much located around the Irish coast.
The bit that we got here, which is quite sheltered and quite sandy, is this the sort of area that all the invertebrates prefer?
Some of them are coastal specialists, so they'll be in the sand dunes as well. Last year, Chris and Karen Wormwell found an ichneumon wasp again, which is exceptionally rare, in the Manx National Heritage Car Park on the Ayres that's surrounded by the pine trees. So it's located in that area there. So they are right the way across the reserve. Yeah, they're using all the habitats, but many of the really rare ones are using the sandy habitats.
How are people finding out what they are? Do some of them capture them, put them in the jar, bring them to you, and then they're back released again?
Some people have managed to photograph them.
Right.
But yeah, as I said before, a lot of them, it's specialists. So yeah, they have special licenses to catch them, take them away, take specimens away and identify them.
Talked a lot about the insects and invertebrates. The bird situation at the moment?
We're kind of in that changeover period where our wintering birds are starting to disperse and they're going off to their breeding grounds. So over the winter this year we've had massive flocks of golden plover, and there's been counts of up to 800 golden plover here, which is a really good number. And we've also had big flocks of oyster catchers, ring plovers are around. But they're starting to disperse and go off, and then we'll start having our breeding birds returning and also our passage migrants. So over the next few months we'll start seeing the wheaties coming through, whimbrels. The curlews will be establishing their breeding territories and you'll start to see them calling. So yeah, it's that changeover period.
Now, this is quite a vast area at the Ayres Nature Reserve here. I mean, are people free to roam it just about anywhere?
Yep, they can.
With animals as well?
Well, with dogs, yes. Stay on the paths. During the bird nesting season, which is from the 1st of April to the 31st of July, dogs must be on leads on the National Nature Reserve, and the bylaws are there to protect the wildlife, and under the bylaws if your dog is not on a lead you could be fined. So yes, people are welcome, but behave responsibly. If you see birds flying around calling and they're distressed, move away from them.
What about the invertebrate side of it? Can you do any damage there?
No, I wouldn't say that any damage at all, so long as you're not actually disturbing any of the ground areas. And they are really, really great for engaging children. We've got a species here that's reasonably common called the green tiger beetle, and it has absolutely massive jaws on the front, and it's like the tiger of the invertebrate world, and it hunts down caterpillars and other invertebrates and takes them back to its burrow and feeds them to its young or its grubs. And they are really fantastic for showing children. They can be the most amazing colours. I've got some other photographs here. So this is the green tiger beetle. It's a lovely green colour, shiny green colour with yellow spots. We've also got ruby-tailed wasps. Now these are found right round the Isle of Man, but they are absolutely stunning colours, and they're a metallic greeny blue at the front with a lovely ruby tail. And then we've got this moth here is actually endangered, which is the scarce crimson and gold moth. And it's a beautiful pink and yellow moth. I mean, they are absolutely tiny, and you do, need to get your eyes in to spot them. But when you see them, they are fantastic, and they make fantastic photographs as well. You know, it's easy to photograph these without disturbing them.
It's an eye-opener, really, because people just walk around, maybe look at the birds, look at the scenery, and have a bit of peace and quiet here. But it's surprising what's under your feet, really, if you look closely.
Yeah, definitely. You know, all along the back of the dunes, during the summer, you can hear the grasshoppers, you know, constantly churring away. And it is a fantastic place, absolutely fantastic.
Warden for DEFA, Louise Sampson. And it is really fascinating, and you don't think of that like we were talking about there. You think of going there and seeing all the birds flying around and different species like that. You don't think of the tiny creatures that's just on the ground there, and such rare ones that the Isle of Man have got as well.
It's brilliant the work that they're doing around the coastal and even the inland paths of all the different areas of scientific interest, and the little insects and creatures. They are really rare, aren't they?
They are, and it's great that they've thought about this, and obviously, you know, turning the ground over makes the sand exposed, keeps the warmth there. Makes sense when you look at it now, but yeah, the good work they're doing, and it's an absolutely fantastic area. So just be careful though, as Louise said, with the dogs there at certain times. He is scared, you know, the birds, but you know, you're free to roam around quite a lot of that area, and it's very beautiful particularly in the spring and the summer.
We are very lucky to have such beautiful places to enjoy on the Isle of Man, aren't we?
Good old spot for mushrooms as well out there, Kiri. Some areas around there, but I don't see any bonnags growing in the ground. That's one thing for certain.
No, that's because you're all in Derby this week.
Yeah, well, it's the World Championship there, the Bonnags, wasn't it, at Derby there? And it's not just a display of Bonnag, is it? It's a full night that they make of it. It
really is a brilliant night out, and high tea and also entertainment from Dot Tilbury and friends. And the icing on the cake is Jeff Corkish, busy selling them Bonnags, and hardly one for under a £5. So I went along and caught up with some of the organisers and competitors on such a brilliant night. Tony Quirk, you had a very difficult job here tonight judging the World Bonnag Championship. What were you looking for in particular in your winning one?
Well, the first thing you look for is just eye appeal. Does it look like a Bonnag? Does it look right? And then there's certain characteristics of a Bonnag. There has to be kind of a sodary flavour to it, taste to it, a kind of a tingly flavour on the end of your tongue. There's a couple which they're all of a high standard. They really are. We've got, how many? We've got 35, something like that. I've tried a little piece of each one. And a couple of a bit sweet, perhaps, and they're more of a cake than a Bonnag. So yes, they should be of a shape. They shouldn't be in a tin. They should be round, often with a bit of glaze on top of either egg or milk. There's a big debate whether it should have fruit or not. I think it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because there's a few here with fruit in tonight, isn't there?
Yes, there are. So it doesn't really matter whether it's got fruit or not. There's some commercial ones, very, very good there. Some gluten-free ones, which again, hundreds of years ago when the Bonnags were first eaten, they wouldn't have thought. I don't think celiac existed in those days, but anyway, yeah.
So today your winner was which one in particular?
Well, I don't know the name because it's all blind tasting, so the name's are written underneath the underneath the plate. So I don't actually know who the winner was. The ladies who organised it do, obviously, but I don't. I just know the one that did win was the best of all of them, yes.
And do the classes differ much? There's obviously a ladies' class, gentlemen's and children's as well?
Yeah, unfortunately this year there's only a couple of children, so please, I appeal to you next year, have a go, because it's so simple. It's a giant scone, basically, isn't it, really? Yeah, I'm great that it's good that the men have tried. It's a bit like barbecue, and the men have got to have a go at barbecue. They don't cook all year, and yet at Bonnag time and barbecue, they have to come out and have a go, don't they, to show.
They really do.
Yeah.
Well, is there a standard set of ingredients or recipes that the competitors have to follow?
No, there's no standard that they have to follow, but certainly all it would be some butter, some flour, self-raising flour or plain flour, and then you'd add a raising agent, which would be soda or bicarbonate soda or cream of tartar as well. Some people put egg in it, some people don't. And of course, buttermilk, that's the most important thing, is buttermilk, to give that tart flavour to it again. But if you can't get buttermilk, which you can these days, all the supermarkets have it, but if you can't, yogurt does, or a bit of lemon juice in some milk would do the same job, but buttermilk is the best thing, and it's easily found on the Isle of Man.
And is it difficult to make? Does it take an awful long long time?
No, throw your flour into a mixing bowl, rub in your butter, add a bit of sugar if you want to, add your bicarbonate of soda or cream of tartar, whatever you want to do to make it rise, rub it all together, throw in your liquid, an egg if you want to, mix it together, get a firm sort of dough that you can mould into a shape, and as you can see, they're fairly standard sort of shape. Bake it in the oven, it'll take about 40 minutes maybe in the oven, and that's it, a bit of glaze on top, and that's it.
Because this once was the staple of the Manx diet, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know it's staple because spuds and herring would be the staple, yeah. But this would be eaten with a thing called pinjane. Pinjane is junket. Have you ever had junket?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, junket is milk, warm milk and rennet, and they have this with pinjane, which is, I say, junket basically to you and I. Yes, yeah.
So, like, people now maybe have it as a dessert, possibly the fruit version. Can you have it with soups? Is
No,
it?
well, it was still traditionally would be as a not a dessert night, but like an afternoon tea. If you went for an afternoon tea, same basis as a scone. Whenever you have a scone, you'd have a piece of Bonnag. Yes, yeah.
So your winner today, then, Tony, was an outstanding one.
It was absolutely outstanding one. Yes,
It covered
you had
all
to
the
ask
options.
one of the others. It did absolutely. No doubt we'll find out who the actual winner was. Name in a few minutes. Yes.
Brilliant. Jane, you've just won the World Bonnag Championship title. How does that feel?
I know, I can't believe it, honestly.
And what was the secrets to your Bonnag?
Well, I just did it as I would normally do it. I don't make it a lot of times, but I thought I'd have a go this year at the competition. So
So you're not a regular to the competition then at all?
well, I have entered it before, yes, but I don't do it every year, no.
Was yours a traditional recipe then? Because I seen some there with fruit and the judge said some were more like cakes. What was your recipe? Was there any secrets to it?
No, I don't tend to put fruit in mine. I just do it plain. I don't know whether that's really traditional or not, but that's just the way that I do it.
And certainly the judge, commented on how nice it looked and obviously the texture. And with Tony Quirk, he's a professional in his area, so he was really looking out for the best one, really.
I suppose just look at the draw.
But not only that, your husband, he also won the gentleman's class. Now, you didn't do it for him, did you?
I did not do it for him, no. He did his slightly different to me, cooked it differently, but that was it.
So there's competition within the household, let alone at this one. But it is a wonderful evening put on here at Dorby, isn't it?
It is, yes. Marvellous, really, in entertainment, and the food is wonderful.
Oh, it really is. All the home-baked cooking. But the house was full, wasn't it?
Yes. Well, you have to book in early to get a seat.
And it's a cold night tonight, but it certainly didn't deter the entries. And you to be the world champion.
I know.
Some achievement.
Can't believe it.
Howard, you won the gentleman's section and your dear wife won the overall Bonnag championship. Now, how does that make you feel?
Well, perhaps when we get home, I'll have to ask her the recipe.
Yeah, you'll have to dig in the book and steal it for next year, maybe.
Indeed, yes. No, we both decided to enter, and we both did it completely separate. I do it a little bit different from Jane, but obviously I'm going to have to change and get the recipe tweaked.
Come back next year.
Oh yes.
Margie, yet another successful world champion Bonnag competition here tonight in Dorby. What a great turnout.
Wonderful, really, really good. We just can't believe how good the support is for this sort of thing. People like a bit of Manx entertainment.
They really, and talk of entertainment, Dot Tilbury and friends. What a brilliant show tonight.
Wonderful, yes. Never fail to please. Absolutely great.
But it's great to see the young girls singing as well. You know, the Guild is coming up. What an ideal spot to do practice.
That was lovely. They were really good, the girls. Just beautiful voices and so confident.
Oh, yeah.
Lovely to see.
But the classes here tonight, Margie, the gluten-free, the commercial classes, the ladies and gentlemen's, it's something for everybody to get involved in, isn't there?
Yeah, well, we're very keen on the commercial one because unfortunately you see a lot of fruitcake in commercial premises being sold as Bonnag. And that's why we started the commercial class, so that we will have a proper Manx Bonnag when it's supposed to be Bonnag. And happily, Greens have won again.
Very good. There's been some absolutely brilliant winners, but to have the ladies winner and the gentleman from the same household.
I know. That was amazing, wasn't it? Howard has won before, but a few years ago. So, yes, it was nice to see the two of them win.
But there were so many cakes on show, and the judge, Tony Quirk, he had so many positive remarks for them all.
Yes, well, he's entered himself in the past and he has won in the past. So he does know a good Bonnag. It was great to have him here tonight, and even better that he'd entertained us as well.
He really did. But tonight it was lovely to have the sponsors as well.
ShopRite are just so kind to us every year. With when I ring them up, they're just so happy to help. They help different Manx organisations all the time. We're very happy with our help from them.
And also the lovely trophies that have been getting handed out for how many years now has it been running?
I was trying to think, we must be doing this for about 25 years. It's just going from strength to strength and keeping the idea of the Manx alive, really.
And I suppose now with all the social feeds and online, people can, come from any parts to here.
Yes, well, we've got a Dorby Facebook page, St James's Facebook page, and a website, so people can keep up to date with what we're doing.
The charity auction afterwards, you've got two lovely charities chosen this year as well.
Yes, Bridge the Gap, I think it's close to everybody's heart when you've got teenagers with such disabilities, and just to support the Bridge the Gap charity, we're really, really pleased about. And the overseas one, again, the hospital, which is supported by the Isle of Man. It's wonderful to see.
So, Margie, is there any secret recipe that makes a winner stand out?
I wish I knew. They seem to be getting better and better every year, the Bonnags in this competition. So there is some beautiful Bonnags there tonight, and they auctioned off so well. That's really good. We've never had an auction like that. We've done really well.
And I suppose with having Jeff Corkish as the auctioneer, he brought the house down on many occasions tonight.
It was wonderful. He does such a good job. Really, really good. Loved it.
But we all enjoyed a very nice tea tonight. The teas and the cakes, the homemade sandwiches. It really is a Manx tradition here in Dorby.
Yeah, it is. There's all homemade. Everything's homemade. The cakes, the sandwiches. I think that makes a difference if it's homemade. Some nice cakes.
Definitely a team effort.
Oh, a team effort. Yes.
All those ladies in there tonight.
Yeah. And we've got a cookery book. So if anybody wants any of our recipes, come and get a copy of the lexicon have our cookery book in, so A Taste of Dorby.
So who knows, it could be the winning Bonnag recipe in that book.
It's in there.
That was Tony Quirk, the judge, Margie Killy, the organiser, Jane and Howard Richardson, two of the competitors. The results for the World Bonnag Championships was the ladies' champion was Jane Richardson, the gentlemen's champion was Howard Richardson, gluten-free went to Nicky Beavis, and commercial champion went to Greens in St John's.
Not just half a dozen Bonnags there, was there?
No, just short 40. And
really?
What an array they were. Some with fruit, some without, some more like cakes with lots of sugar added. But Tony Quirk did a great job deciphering them into the different orders, and he went for some of the sour, more traditional types this time.
Yeah, well, I suppose lots of the Manx traditionalists will like that side of it. He tasted them as well?
He did this year. We had Paul Kelly last year who didn't believe in tasting them, and it's amazing what different judges do, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, a year or so ago now, Ray Kelly launched Tholtans Volume 1, which was an illustrated book with many photographs of old buildings and Tholtans that are now ruins, all scattered around various parts of the Isle of Man. They've got little footnotes and various bits of history along with them. Well, it was that successful, he's launched Volume 2, and I caught up with Ray at Little London to look at some more.
I was sitting here on a place called Croity Cubbon, which I own. In front of me there's about 7 little Tholtans, all within each side of each other. The one in front of me is called Croity Cubbon, and the valley across the way is Crunk Dhu. Then we've got Knock Dhu. Then opposite on the hillside there's a Bala Ellis, and from Bala Ellis we go to Bala Sale. Then we go to Dreambeery, Erie Glass, and finally back up to Glen Helen. So there's lots to be seen.
Do you think it was deliberate that they were within sight of each other so people could keep an eye on them? Or?
I would say so, because there was no phones those days. Well, there was nothing else. You'd hang a white sheet out, or there'd be a fire or some sort of light. That would be the only way.
But looking around at these, the half a dozen or so that you've mentioned, I mean, can these get restored or are they gone?
Well, I suppose they could be restored, but more, they got to the stage where they'd be flattened. And to be fair, you'd have to start from scratch because most of them never had a foundation, so there'd be no damp-proof course. You're never going to get past that stage.
When you look at your Manx Tholtans Book 1, Ray, what a great success it's turned out to be. So successful that
we've launched a Volume 2, which is out on the shops now, although I believe a lot of it's gone. Volume 1 is no longer available, it's sold out, I'm afraid. Volume 2 will probably go the same way. I don't intend to print anymore because it's just a very expensive thing to do, so they're there. If you want them, buy one.
Did you think there'd be enough Tholtans and things to put in a second one?
Well, I thought, to be honest, when I did the first one, that would be it. But the first one generated Volume 2 because people gave me more things to go and do. And I've got a whole stack more from Volume 2 to go and do as well. So if I've got the time and things go on, there would be enough to keep a few books going. It's time really that is the issue, because the research and putting it together does take quite a bit of effort.
And that's something we spoke about the last time. We're trying to get this information because the people that lived in these will be long gone, and whether any of their families are still here, the ground that they're on.
Well, there's a few about that I'm going to try and talk to. There's a Stanley Quirk who lives up in Kinslew, and he's lived on his place 80 years, and he came from a place which is now a ruin. It's a guy called Joe Lease at St John's. He has got quite a lot of information, but they're few and far between, and the few that are about may not be able to actually communicate anymore either, so it is something that has to be done quicker than later.
And just remind us about how the fascination with them started, Ray. These old Manx Tholtans, or old Manx cottages as they were, built out of sort of round or any type of stone that could be found in the area, I suppose.
Yeah, they were, like if it was a beach, near a beach, it was beach stone. If it was on a hill, it could be stone or sod. It was, as you said, was what it was available. I suppose the passion really is the fact that I came from farming stock, I do. I just found there was so little information on these places, so little history, and yet they're like, if a Manx, like the Isle of Man is, we all came from these little places. We started in the hills, we moved to towns, but we started in the hills, and that's where we came from. But we don't know. People don't have any recollection or memories of going back, because these places didn't have any deeds. They were never sold. So of course when they disappeared, they just stopped. The history stopped with them, and the people are dying who lived in them.
Was there any interesting things found around the areas? Obviously you seek permission to go to obviously private ones, but did you find any sort of artefacts around the buildings?
Yeah, there's usually bits of crockery, which means you can date it from a certain time scale. There's bits of china here and there. There'll be a cooking pot here and there. Not an awful lot, because they didn't have very much, so when they left, they didn't leave very much. They didn't leave a house full of stuff. It was just to survive and live. But my wife is extremely good at picking up the details. She sees the sand and I see the beach. So I usually take, and she finds something I never see, which always amazes me. We've been up here 10 years, and only last week I found a water mill down in the valley down here. I've never seen one before. It's got a wheel on it and everything. So it was actually an old grinding thrashing mill. And I've lived here 10 years, or been up here 10 years. Never knew it was there.
I was talking there to Ray Kelly after the launch of his second book, Manx Tholtans Volume 2, and some great pictures and little stories that go with that. It's great.
The history that he must have had to have dug up to find out about all these different Tholtans, how they came about, that would take hours on its own, let alone going around photographing them. But some of them we've never even seen before, so what an opportunity to discover where they are and actually go and take a look for ourselves now.
Yeah, but it was nice looking over that view and seeing them, and it was just, me and Ray just sat there in silence for maybe a minute or so, just looking and imagine how things were all them years ago when people lived in them. Yeah.
Is it the homesteads and the farms and how they lived with no power and no water and the distance they had to travel, and how things have changed. But who knew there was so many Tholtans and old buildings out there around the island?
Gosh, look at it now. Somebody's phone is off for 10 minutes. Oh, what are we going to do? There was them people waving flags or light a bit of a fire to draw attention. Oh, what's happening at that farm over there? Yeah, but there we go.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, there we are. We wish Ray Kelly well with the Manx Tholtans Volume 2, and it's great that's been so well received by people on the Isle of Man. He's a very keen photographer, as well as wanting to know about the history of these old places that are just strewn in the middle of nowhere. And it's hard to imagine looking at some of these that people actually live there in the middle of nowhere. But it was great hearing that most of them were in sight of another one, because obviously no communication or nothing, but they could see or keep an eye on it and see if anything was wrong, or nobody had moved for days, you know.
It's unbelievable the way that just generations change, you know, over time. Only a handful of years ago, really, I suppose, isn't it? But it's nice that Ray's taken the time to do it as well.
It is.
You know,
and it was nice to have a walk around the Ayres Nature Reserve with Louise Sampson, the warden. Very, very knowledgeable, and great fun to be out with. And she showed us a lot of the new innovations, because we think of birds and different animals out there. And this project they've got going now is to help the invertebrates, the little insects and animals that are a lot of them are rare and, you know, fairly rare around the country, you know, in general. You know, we've got some of them here on the Isle of Man, which is nice. We want to keep them there too.
This is it, and they're part of the big circle of life, aren't they, really? And if we have got some rare ones, it's best way to keep them safe. But she's so passionate, and she's got a great team around her that, you know, driving innovations like this forward. It's very, very good.
Yeah, and the future of the World Bonnag Championship seems in good hand.
It really is. I think that's safe and here to stay for a very long time. But it's great to have the different classes as well for everybody to get involved. So next year, come on, Simon.
Oh, well, you never know. All right, we better escape quickly before I have to make one. We'll leave it there. We'll be back next week with more for the Countryside programme. Until then, from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kiri Kermit.
We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Don't sit in the slow lane. Join the fast lane right now with Shaw's all-new Superfast Plus broadband. Enjoy more bandwidth, amazing speeds and the best value on the island from just £23.95 per month. So don't be left behind. Get a piece of the high-speed action with Superfast Plus broadband from Shaw. For details, visit our stores in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin, or click shaw.com. Love being Shaw. Terms and conditions apply.